Bub.
Okay. Ready, Jace? Everybody here?
All good.
All good?
Almost all good.
Hey Chuck, I'll email you all if you need it.
Okay, captains for this week will be Chase Litton and Justin Hunt on offense, and on defense, Trey Tyler and Blake Keller. And we had the fifth captain this week, which is Cody Carter, who just, if you had the opportunity to watch that special team tape, he was special. He's a great little player, and just what this program's all about, just how hard he plays. But this Akron game is a game that I got great. Of course, I got great respect for Terry and what he's done with that program. He's taken that program from was one of the worst programs in college football to where they won 8 games a year ago and competing for the MAC championship and won the bowl game. And he's got them back playing really well. They're an excellent football team this year. I think if you look at him, number 34 on defense is just a tremendous player. He can play for anybody. He's defensive end, very athletic. He can really play. And offensively, they got their quarterback back from a bowl team that won a year ago, and got us a little slot receiver that is good at punt returners in the country. Had a touchdown against Wisconsin, and they're just a really well-coached, physical, tough football team. Chuck Amato coaches their defense, who I played with or worked with for 5 years, and know those guys really well. So they'll be well coached. They'll be tough. They'll be physical, and we know we have to do a great job this week of preparation for us to have a chance. So looking forward to the week.
Talk about, you know him from back in your Morgantown days, but he got out of coaching for 10 years, gets into broadcasting, and goes back the D2 route, and then to a program in Akron that had struggled. So some gutsy calls on him to get back into coaching. Talk about your relationship with him and how you know him.
Well, I played with him and knew him forever. I've known him he used to work camps for me down in Putnam County back years ago when he was at Salem, and I was just starting at West Virginia. But I kept telling him he wasn't very smart. He went to law school and was an attorney and ended up being a coach. But he's everywhere he's been successful. He was successful at Auburn, was successful at Salem when he was at Salem, was successful at Stanford. Everywhere he's been, he's won. He mentioned prior to Akron, the school he went to. So has had success wherever he's been. Does a good job recruiting, and then of course Chuck Amato has been very successful at Florida State and had a lot of success at NC State with Phillip Rivers when we were there, and he's an excellent coach too. So, got great respect for both those guys. Todd Stroud, who worked at Florida State and also at NC State with me, is also there with him. So he's got an excellent staff and got good players, and they'll coach him up, and they'll have him ready to play.
What is it about coaches from West Virginia that's made them successful? You look at some of the top minds in college football, and they've been from this state.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's maybe the way they grow up and the work ethic. I mean, they're taught from the time they were kids in the state of West Virginia. You got to go to work for a living. You got to get up and go to work every day, and that's probably the best advice anybody can get. And I know if you ask, Sabans and Jimbos and all those guys that go way back, I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing. But it's all about getting up early and going to bed late and try to outwork people. I mean, that's what West Virginia people do, and that's why they have success. So I would say if there's number one ingredient, that's what it would be.
Given that you know Coach Bowd and Coach Amato and all those guys so well, how fun is this cat and mouse game for you all? Because you all know each other pretty well, and with that you learn each other's tendencies and what you all like to do.
Well, I don't think there's any question. We know each other probably as well as anybody can, but at the end of the day, it comes down to execution and following the plan to win, which is taking care of the football and doing all the things you get, playing great defense and tackling well and avoiding penalties and doing all the things that you have to do to win football games. So, there's no doubt in my mind that both teams are extremely well coached, are extremely well developed, and it's going to come down to what it always does: who takes care of the ball and who can win the special team battle and who can score in the red zone, who plays the best defense. I mean, that's what it always comes down to, and this game will be no different.
It's going to be a pretty special battle. Battle of future Sunday guys with Clint Van Horn and Jamal Marcus.
Jamal. Of course he's transferred from Ohio State. That he's fun to watch playing other people. I'm not sure how much fun he's going to be watching him play us. But he's you better know where he is because he's as good as anybody in the country at that position. He can make a lot of plays.
Was Wisconsin able to neutralize him and Pittman both, and is that why they saw their success?
I mean, Wisconsin, of course, what's number one, Wisconsin's excellent football team was what you saw at the LSU, and number one, they're a really good team. But he made some plays against Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's just an excellent team that was able to run the football, and they're a little different than what we are. They got about 5 350-pound guys up front there that are pretty good. So they do what they do pretty well, and Akron struggled a little bit with that part of it, but we're not Wisconsin.
They're not shy about taking shots either. They got Lane, the big receiver, and Woodson. They go deep quite a lot. They'll test your secondary.
They're a little bit similar to us offensively. They got the quarterback, and they want to take shots. There's no doubt they want to take a lot of shots. And again, that's the slot receiver. I mean, you saw him against. He was one of the best players for Utah State, and he ended up transferring from Utah State there. I think he was one that was like special teams player of the year or something at that conference at one point. And ended up at Akron, but he's a dangerous guy that you better know where he is. And you mentioned the other tall receiver too, Lang, and he's sensational. And the quarterback again, he's thrown a lot more. Last year he was their second leading rusher. You don't see that quite as much this year, but he may end up coming up and do that against us. But there's no doubt he's going to take some shots, and he's got some guys who can go get it.
Does Nansen remind you of a little bit quicker DeAndre Reeves with some of the things he's able to do for them?
Similar, he's similar size-wise and similar where he plays. Of course, Reeves was a slot. He's a slot. He's also a punt returner. Reeves was that type of thing. And he's very, very similar. Maybe not quite as big as Reeves, but he's every bit as fast and every bit as explosive.
Doc, after assessing the tape, what you really like and what do you really want to?
Well, I thought it was pretty clean for the first game. I also thought. I thought we got played an awful lot of young kids. And I thought the great thing was the young kids got in there and made some plays. The Ty Tylers went in there, and George Davis, and all those guys. And only they get Hames. Channing Hames went in there and played really well. And so a lot of those young kids that we got in the game produced, which was great to see. And got a lot of kids, a lot of them got their feet wet there a little bit. Some of the young receivers. And so I thought the one thing we accomplished coming out is we wanted to play a lot of young players that hadn't had the opportunity to play, and for the most part we did that. And for the most part, they played pretty well.
Last year, you had Ryan B. sort of emerge as that freshman DN that was opposite Gary and gave you all that present. Do you see Ty Tyler really coming into his role with the team as that third option as well?
He just got to keep getting better. I mean, he's got that kind of ability to take that step. He's got to get it done every day out here on the practice field. If he can, he's just got to learn, and he will. I mean, you watch Hames go play, and Hames played in the game the same way that Keller and all the rest of those guys do, in the same way he practices. And as soon as Tyler learns how to practice like that, he'll be a tremendous player. He's a young kid just learning, but he went in there and did some good things, and he's just got to learn to practice like that every day, like you're playing in the game, and it'll transition to the game. I think, and he'll do that because he's got no choice.
You mentioned Blake Keller as one of the captains this week. I think he had a tackle in which he was engaged in a block and was still able to make a tackle, and that got negated by a penalty. But the play that he disrupted the quarterback and flushed him out, and then worked his way back to get the tackle to force fourth down. Is that the type of effort that you expect from some of those?
Well, that's what we showed that to our team, and that's the way we want. I know exactly the play you're talking about. He had a minus and a missed sack. He had a plus and an extra effort, and he had a tackle on the same play, and that's him. I mean, he goes 100 mile an hour, and you watch the way he plays, and what Channing Hames does the same thing. I mean, that's the way Chuck's got that defense playing. That's the way we expect him to play, and he epitomizes what our defense is all about, and he's just a go hard guy, and like you say, you'll see what he does the same thing out here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays as he does on Saturdays, and that's how that happens. But he's fun to watch and just a great kid, and I'm sure glad he's here. But the combination of him and Gary and B and Dozier in there in some passing situations, and you mentioned Tyler bringing him along. We got 4 or 5 guys there that we like and we think can help us and be pretty good at that position.
How big is this game for your all's young secondary to really take that next step?
I think it's it's the next game, so it's the biggest game on our schedule. I mean, it's going to be a big challenge for us. I mean, I thought we played a lot of those young kids, the Saps and the Maddox and Chris Jackson. You don't think he's a freshman, but he's still a true freshman. And a lot of those guys went in there playing for the first time, and it'll be a much bigger test for him. Lined up against probably as 2 of as talented receivers as we'll play all year, so it'll be a a matchup that I know I'm anxious to see how they line up and play against those guys. Could be a good test for us.
With Nats
What kind of problems does Lane give to you?
Well, I mean, the good thing about us is we've played against big guys all year. You know, he's going to line up every day in practice. And 6'7" Mike Clark and 6'2", 230-pound McManus, and Hunt 6'2", 6'3", and you know, so we got some tall guys that can run pretty well. And I thought our outside, that's one of the positives I thought in that game. I thought the outside receivers may have made as many plays in that game as we did as we did all last year, and which is a good thing. But our guys line up against that every day, so they should be used to that type of speed and that type of athleticism, that type of size. And they got, we got Brady out there in practice. It's a pretty good player too, so they'll get to line up in practice and play against some pretty good people.
We got a big back too, the ball kid who also is a transfer from Ohio State. He's
Right.
a little bit like your Anderson kid, 6'2",
Yeah.
230.
Had tremendous run against Wisconsin. I don't know if you saw that or not, but he broke 3 tackles in that one run. Looked really good doing it. So he'll be a challenge. He's a big load, and he's similar to Anderson, I would think. And he's a big body, and there's no question.
With Natson's presence in the special teams game, I mean, he returned one against Wisconsin. How much more magnified is Cody Carter's ability to get down the field? And it seemed like in kick coverage and punt coverage last week, he was all over the place.
He was. I mean, it's worth your time to sit back, go back and watch about 3 of those plays he made on special teams because they were unbelievable plays. And he just. We need about. Every time we have a special team, I said I need about 5 of him. Give me 5 of him, we won't lose a game. And he's that kind of guy, and just his attitude, his heart, and everything goes into it. And we need more of him. We got to get more guys step up and be him, because anytime you're playing a guy that's that, and we've had that before with T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, when we played FIU, was #1 in the country. I think we played a guy last year. I can't remember as it goes, but the guy Leonard at FIU was a tremendous punt returner. So anytime we have a guy like that, then we're sure going to challenge our guys like we do every week. But that punt coverage and our lane integrity and everything that goes along with our directional punting and everything we do, there'll be extra emphasis put on that this week, because there's no doubt he can beat you if you don't do a great job with your coverage and you're not overrun the ball and keep it in front and inside and everything you got to do with your coverage lanes.
Talk about your run.
I think we went in the first half just wanting to. I think sometimes you try to play all 4 of them, they don't get any kind of rhythm at all. So we kind of went in wanting to play, and we did that with Holliday and Keon in the first half, and then coming back and playing the other 2 guys in the second half. And Pittman, I was glad to see Pittman go back out there, and he looked as healthy as he's been. He's been banged up all camp, and even during the summer, or not the summer, but the winter at times, and he's starting to look like he's healthy again. So that was great. And then Anderson was banged up a little bit and didn't get quite as many reps as I wanted him to, for a reason. But we got to get those 2 guys back healthy, and then I'm glad we have 4 of them, because we're sure going to need all 4 of them, before the season's over. As you guys know, a year ago we needed them pretty quick.
How do you get the young guys to not be so, obviously 62-0, to maybe get into this week and be real focused and serious about it?
Well, we constantly remind, but we got some good leadership on this team. The older guys will, we spent a lot of time on Friday. Last time we went to the hotel a half hour early, last week, because we had 29 new guys that had never been there. And I thought, I don't normally talk a whole lot out there on Friday. I let the captains take over and kind of do that deal on Friday, because they listen. I think sometimes when you talk so much, they quit listening. And I try to let the captains do some things on Friday night. But I spent a half hour with them, just talking about preparation, how important it is. A lot of teams do a tremendous job with their physical preparation. They think when a lot of you all and everybody else, not you all per se, but a lot of people say the hay's in the barn Thursday. Well, no, it's never in the barn. I mean, the preparation should never stop until the foot hits the ball. In that case, 6 o'clock on Saturday night at noon this Saturday, and we need to explain to them that once you get once we walk off that field on Thursday, it was explained to them. Then once you get to the hotel on Friday, that time you spend there you spend it preparing for the game, and if you don't, you get beat. And so that was part of it, and explaining to them and what our best Fridays in football is all about, and all those things, and explaining to them, all the great players that have come through here to get this program to the point that it is, and we can't let those guys down. That we got to show up and play every Saturday. So we spent a lot of time on that last week, and I know not our seniors, but our leadership on this football team will take that over and make sure that continues this week too, because it's the same deal. I mean, if you don't go prepare yourself to play, I talked to our trainer out there. I didn't even know who Nichols State was. I never heard of a team named Nichols. I guarantee I could ask you, Smock, last week where Nichols is, and you couldn't have told me. It's in Louisiana. You wouldn't, because you looked it up. You wouldn't have told me last week. But I asked him that, and he said Nichols is not a very good, maybe one of the worst teams in the state of Louisiana. It's 26-24 against Georgia. You know, so I mean, the point I'm making is, if you don't go prepare every week, you're going to get beat. And it doesn't matter who you are. And every week, I sit here and tell you somebody's going to get beat that shouldn't. And last week, you can name. I don't have to, but you know that somebody's going to get beat every week that shouldn't. And it happened last week, and it's going to happen again this week. And you just got to make sure it's not you. So we got to do a great job of preparation. And Akron's plenty good enough to beat us or anybody they play if we don't go play. And we have to. We have to go play.
Doc, do you have, and it's kind of a dumb question based on Central Michigan, Oklahoma State, is there somebody that's supposed to have the rule book tucked away maybe a little better for your staff in case something like that comes up where the extra down wasn't supposed to be awarded there, or is that just a 1 in a million? And
I'd like to be able to sit and tell you I knew that was a rule, but I didn't have any clue. That was, I mean, and we've done that. Now, we've actually done that particular play out. Now, we ran the receivers down the field. I guess their receivers didn't move. We actually ran the receivers down the field and threw that at the end of one game. I can't remember what it was, been 2 or 3 years ago, but you know, it's sad. I mean, you just hate to have a game end that way, you know, for anybody, and it's a sad deal. But I mean, to me, that it's the officials have to know. And not only do they have the officials on the field, but you got a group up in the replay booth that you get something that critical, you better get it right. If it takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it needs to get right. And there's 2 replay officials up there that should have that book you're talking about that wouldn't take very long to look it up prior to making that decision. But to sit here and tell you I knew that, I didn't know that. And there's probably not very many staffs in America. If you ask them, neither one of those staffs knew it because they didn't realize it until after it was too late. But hopefully that never happens. I mean, that would be a bad deal to have to deal with that all week. And you know what happens when you lose a game like that? That can sometimes that carries over into the next week. I mean, they'll be lucky to put that behind them and move on to the next week. 'Cause that's what everybody's going to want to talk about. They're not going to want to talk about whoever they play this week. I don't even know who it is, but that being said, they're going to be talking about why they lost that last one and shouldn't have. So that's a tough deal for a coach. Anything else?
Status of Petty, will he be coming back in a few weeks?
Yeah, he's still rehabbing, and he's got I don't know the exact time, but he's not. If I get somebody that's finished for the season, I'll tell you. But he's not. He's not. I would say he's got. I don't know the exact time, but he'll be back at some point. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.